I think my last video covered all that needs to be covered going into CPI. So I considered doing a video yesterday and then I thought, nah, no point. My last video covers it. But there were one or two moves that I think require some commentary before we get the CPI print. So I'm going to cover the markets very quickly. Obviously, yesterday was a strong day. Obviously, it doesn't matter because if the CPI print comes in too hot, too high, the whole thing gets reversed and some. I mean, all the charts will look, maybe except the Dow, will look immediately bearish. And then everyone will be discussing all-time lows. I think, okay, maybe not everyone, but that's what I see. However, we close at high of day. We've had a over 1% move across the indices, except the Dow, which is already high enough. So it looks like the market's bullish going into it. There's always some insider knowledge, but maybe not enough to move the whole market. However, still, let's look at this, the S&P. We're now back in the prior trading range, of 410, 393, let's say. So we've reclaimed prior support, taken out that resistance. Now we have immediate descending resistance and horizontal resistance above. That will come into play once the CPI comes out, but still very bullish going into it. That's interesting. And it's the same for all the others. Now, the NASDAQ hasn't really reclaimed its prior levels. Let's call it 280 to 300. But, it will do if the CPI print is low, that's for sure. And really what you've got to ask yourself is, where will the market go on a CPI, a low CPI print? How strong will it be? Where will it close? Will the NASDAQ close above its descending? Probably not. It's horizontal. The S&P, where will that close? Will that close above its descending line? Would it test its horizontal? I don't know. I also think we might have a bit of a fake out. Even if the print is low, I think, yeah, the market will go up initially, but people will say, wait a minute, this is only sort of 2 months. This is very short-term reading. And we don't have a trajectory that guarantees 2%. Reality will kick in. Wait a minute, rates are still really high. Even if we get a pause, they're still way too high for the market to handle. So this is very short-term trading, news-driven event, but I still won't all of a sudden turn non-bearish or neutral or bullish. Forget it, because, and anyway, they fudge all these numbers, but still, you got to respect the tape. And you can stay bearish and the market goes up 2.5%, you're going to get crushed. So just wondering where the market will close also, and what will happen a few days later. And you've also got to imagine what the chart will look like if let's say the CPI print comes in hot. And I can tell you straight away, all the charts, except maybe the Dow, will just look horrible for the bulls. Very bearish, just lower highs so far is what we got, lower lows. And let's just look at the S&P, which is basically the main one. You get a massive bearish engulfing candle. Next day, we test this low 375, and that's it. I mean, we're not going to go here and bounce. We're going to go here, maybe go sideways, and we're going to be testing the lows. More importantly is the NASDAQ. You get a massive bearish engulfing candle, takes out the last 2-3 days. Maybe the next day, if not already in one day, but the next day we're testing 260. And when you're testing 260 after major news, and it's a bear market and the trend is your friend and the trend is down, you're going to flush this in less than 5 trading days. And then all the other indices follow. The Dow is a bit special. Like I said, this will, well, basically what I've drawn here will pretty much happen. It will be a massive bearish engulfing candle. It will come low with all the other indices and just slowly step toe its way down, maybe flushing at one or two, at one point if the other indices like the NASDAQ or maybe even the Russell starts to flush. But you've got to really imagine what the chart looks like, whether it's a bullish reaction or a bearish reaction, and also several days later, not just on that one day, 5 or 7 trading candles, daily candles, bearish or bullish. Where will support or resistance be, and what will be the new news and the next news they look at? So anyway, for now it's bullish, but it's kind of irrelevant. The DAX, by the way, just storming higher. Actually, 15,000 for me was really the line in the sand. That's when you're really testing old highs, which shouldn't even be in the conversation, but it looks like it is. The DAX will be trading before the news is out. So I don't think anything will move crazy until the news is out. Let's actually, let's look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, actually, that's the other one that hit my target of 18,000 sort of, well, this descending line, 18,400, I said, just below. As always, if you're trading for 18,400, don't wait at 18,400, and don't even wait at 18,389. Just when you see it there and your alarm's going off, zoom in on the 1 minute chart, and when you start to see a bit of a, like here, for example, and I wasn't watching this, I think I was sleeping during this. Yes, I was. But, when you start to see this move spike and it comes all the way back down, you got to think, okay, maybe if it doesn't test it again, it's over. And here you've got a triple top. Maybe you can stop out, trading stop here. Because whether you're selling 18,200 and whatever, let's call 200, right? Let's say you stop out. Or whether you sell at 18,360 and get the top, which no one does, there's no difference if you're buying all the way down there. There's zero difference. But anyway, point is Bitcoin made its move, which I thought it would. I didn't think it would do it during the night before, for me, the night before CPI print. But like I said, it's timed perfectly. The chart is just looking perfect. However, if the CPI print comes too hot and everything goes down, this will go back down again. And just like everything else, it will test the lows of, let's say here, in this case, 16,000, 500, sideways down, flush with everything else, obviously, especially like the NASDAQ. But anyway, Bitcoin made its move. The dollar, that's trying to find support down here, but I think what I said already is sufficient. If we have I don't want to get this wrong every time I say it, but if we get a very high number, then the dollar will go up, because that suggests that more rate hikes are needed, and therefore the dollar goes up. But this 7-thing-in-1 trading there will go all the way back here. It'll probably be a very strong move, 104, and then 2 or 3 trading days later we're testing here, and we probably go back up, because this is what we were supposed to do before this news event drove us lower. So yeah, and obviously the commodities will do the reverse. And if there is a low print and everyone thinks, oh, the inflation is coming back down, the pivot is soon, you can expect the dollar to go basically down here and test this. And we'll see if it can hold. I think it will hold this in one day, of course. Maybe go just below. Let's see where it closes. It's all about the close, also the daily close. And then let's see if it can recover, or do we just sort of go sideways and test lower, because if after one news event we're testing here, maybe we want some follow through. What if the markets, in my opinion, will follow through for several trading days? So we could be looking at the dollar going lower, and then we'll have to redraw some lines. $100, 100 will be the next support zone, but it won't be incredibly strong. But anyway, I'll return to that when after the CPI. I'm not going to look into things too much right now, but it's just interesting to consider in advance. Let's look at rates very quickly. I don't think, okay, the 1 year is creeping up, but other than the 1 year, we're just going sideways here at the support, sorry, that I was looking at already. So we came lower like the dollar, and now we're just sort of going sideways, waiting for CPI. That's all I'm going to say about interest rates. They're going to scream one way or another, so no point looking into it too much now. I'll end with gold and silver. Now, 1880 remains resistance. I know we're above it right now, but it remains resistance, that zone. I don't expect gold to be going and testing 1900 or 1920 before CPI. So 1880 was resistance, is still resistance. If we go back down, I've already drawn the target. I don't think that's changed. On the way up, 1900, 1920, I think 1900 will be taken out for sure on this news, because that's a very small percentage move. 1920 is the next resistance. We might not close around 1920, but I think we'll definitely close above 1900. And then honestly, gold just looks ridiculous. Very strong. I mean, 1900, we need 2000, and 2000, I know we hit 2100 almost, but 2000 is basically the highs. And if you're in the 1900 zone, you're pretty damn close. On the way down, we hit this, and there'll be a lot of buying on the way down. I don't think all my supports will be filled, so I'll have to be buying a little higher. I might have to move these up, but I'm trading the miners, so I'm not going to bother touching that here in gold. Silver, that also, I think the resistance was well identified. It's underperforming, even though it's up more in percentage terms right now. But you could see $24 very strong resistance. It's looking like a curl and then a flush down. Obviously, it depends, but we've got lots of resistance here. I think I'm going to be really interested to see where silver, if it moves up after CPI, where it closes, because if we've got gold at 1900, 1920, silver kind of, I mean, I know my resistance points have been very good, but it's just going to have to break through that. And where will it close? Will it close above 24.50? Yeah. Will it close above 25? I don't know. But either way, the follow through the next day probably will. And then we've got silver breaking out this descending line, which basically clears the path for a move to 26, 27, okay, 28. It's really that simple in $1 increments. So I just can't wait for this report to come out because it's going to be exciting either way. And I have a strategy that covers whether the moves go up. Okay, I make money. I don't make as much as I would have done because I've sold really everything I think I should. I'm very light, but I'll still make money. You can't get angry when you make money. But if it comes back down, I'm going to be really just machine gunning my way in very slowly, and also watching, markets, especially like the NASDAQ, and watching gold and silver. But I'll be trading the miners, and here I am with the miners. Again, this also seems to, here I'm looking at the GDX, seems to have topped out around 32. If the markets scream high, gold and silver scream high, we're going to go to 33 in one shot. We might even close above it. So GDX has a lot of catching up to do. I was looking at the percentage moves of for example, silver. How much has that moved from the absolute low to the absolute high? That's 40%. That's a pretty big move. You'd expect the miners to be up double that, especially the GDXJ. And, from the absolute low to the absolute high, 50, 60%. I'm sorry, that's not enough. So I think the miners have a lot of catching up to do. I understand why they're not as high, because the markets, forget the Dow, but the markets aren't up that much. But this is underperforming the metals. And so if we have the market going up and looking very bullish, breaking out of their own descending lines, and we've got the metals, gold above 1900, this will definitely be touching its next resistance point. In GDXJ, for example, 42. And to be honest, could go even higher, not in one day, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna have to move these resistance points a bit higher now. But that's it. I mean, I've kind of spoken about resistance and support already. And I'll leave it there. I look forward to the video tonight. Good luck and good day.